Hey, welcome to the Thursday Checkdown. I'm your host, Greg Kellogg. I'm joined by my good friend, Rick Brusuelas. Rick, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing great. It's been super busy at work, but that keeps me young.
And we're starting our actual regular season coverage tonight with a segment that we call Pros versus Joes, where the pro and the Joe are each going to select one sleeper for week one bust for week one, and so are we. We're going to choose one too so that we can look foolish too. But this week, our pro is Disco, also known as Big Draft Energy or Big Draft Headquarters on Twitter. Good friend of ours, and Disco's a great humanitarian. He does these drafts for a living, and he also raises money for charity. Disco, anything you want to say about yourself?
You are way too kind. I'm here because Greg Kellogg is the greatest human being on the planet, and Rick Brusuelas highlights philanthropy in fantasy football, which is one of the coolest things. So I'm just here, and Greg, I love you, and I'll do anything for you, brother.
I do appreciate that, but you're going up against the big Woz, Mike Wozniak, out of the Football Guys forums, and I used to be in the Football Guys forums all the time. I've since gone back to it recently, and Woz came across me there and agreed to be our first guinea pig, our first Joe. Mike, how you doing tonight?
I am doing well. I've been working since about 5 a.m., and now I'm going to stop, spend some time with you guys, and then go watch some football.
Oh, I want to watch some football too. But let me explain a little bit about what this segment is all about. Basically, because we don't have any stats to go on this week, I went to the Fantasy Pros ADP for PPR leagues and selected the top 12 quarterbacks and tight ends and the top 24 running backs and wide receivers and provided that list to these guys. One of those guys for each of our guests is going to be a bust. One guy that's not listed in those lists is going to be a sleeper, and they're going to explain exactly why they feel a person's a bust or a sleeper. And I think we're going to kick this off with our pro and our sleeper picks. So if you would, Disco, who is your sleeper for week one?
At the quarterback position?
Any position, because you're only doing one.
All right, Cooper Kupp.
All right, tell us why.
Historically, when you look at Cooper Kupp starting the season off, he always breaks fantasy football in the opener, the season opener, and then sometimes he either falls off or he wins the Triple Crown. There's really no far in between there. With that being said, also if you look at Robert Saleh and what Robert Saleh allows on a weekly basis, historically when he was the 49ers defensive coordinator and in his previous seasons with the New York Jets, they always gave up the most points to opposing slot back positions. I have Cooper Kupp for 12 receptions, 187 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns.
2 receiving. Now that is bold, and I love it. Woz, can you match that? Who's your sleeper for this week?
I'm going to try. I'm going to go with one of the rookie running backs. You're going to see a theme here with my sleeper and my bust. Both are going to be rookie running backs, and the rookie running back I'm choosing as a sleeper is Woody Marks. Here's how I get there. I see a thumb up there from Rick. Look, I love Nick Chubb. I've had Nick Chubb on a bunch of other teams in the past. Consummate pro. I was so happy for him when he panned out. Unfortunately, I just think kind of like Cuddy from The Wire. He's a man. He's a man now, but it's past his time. And I think they're going up against the Rams, and they're going to struggle, and they're going to need a spark. So with that spark, you go to Woody Marks. I know he's 4th on the depth chart. Football Guys, which is the site I kind of live and die by, they tell me what to do while I'm over here working and plugging in my lineups. They have him 46. I looked at some of the guys around that they have him there, and both in flex and both there, and guys like Rico Dowdle, Tanks Bisbee, Khalif Shakir. I just think Marks has the opportunity this week. Houston's going to need somebody to make some big plays. I think he's going to get out there and bust one. I'm seeing, 12 or so touches, probably starting after the second quarter, and he's going to break a long one. So I'm hoping for somewhere 100 yards and a touchdown from your deep flex position as a sleeper. We take all day.
Well, I like that. Rick, do you have a sleeper for this week?
I tell you, I love hearing the sleeper of Woody Marks. I love Marks, but I also dug a little deep, and I went with a running back who was also the last of the guests that I was able to have on the Give Back show. Washington Commanders running back Austin Eckler. Boy, there was all this talk about Brian Robinson being traded, and then there was all this talk about Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt versus Chris Rodriguez versus Jeremy McNichols. And who was it that is elevated up to the top of the heap but star running back Austin Eckler? I think he's going to get a lot of receiving work in the game this weekend against the Giants. And of course, there'll still be all the talk about Bill, but give me the crafty veteran in this game, especially since the Commanders should win pretty easily. I think we're going to see a lot of Austin Eckler on the field. So there's my sleeper running back.
Well, I got to tell you, I am ill prepared this week because I'm actually at a lake house in Georgia and don't have everything all set up for me. I was late getting Disco and Waz the link for the show, but I do have a note in front of me that says no tight end has a better week one matchup than Brenton Strange. And the Panthers allowed the most fantasy points to tight ends last year. And with the departure of Evan Ingram, Strange is elevated into probably Trevor Lawrence's number 2 target. I know a lot of people seem to think that Travis Hunter is all that and, a loaf of bread as well, but I'm not sure he'll get more targets in week one than Brenton Strange. So I'm actually looking at Brenton Strange to get 7 to 9 targets in week one. And if he gets that, he is definitely going to be top 12. So he is my sleeper for the week. We've still got busts to look at. This time, let's go with the Joe first. Waz, who do you got as a bust?
Well, it may seem antithetical. I'm going with another rookie who is getting a ton of hype, but I think he's going to bust, and that is TreVeyon Henderson. Here's my thought process. I think they're going against the Las Vegas Raiders. They actually, I looked at it earlier, weren't so bad last year against the run. They were rated 12th based off the site I looked at earlier. I think the game script, though, is going to be favorable for the crafty veteran, like Rick mentioned, Ramondre Stevenson. I think New England knows they want to keep the Raiders off the field. And in doing so, Ramondre Stevenson is going to go 4 yards in a cloud of dust. They don't need TreVeyon Henderson in this game to be successful. I think they need more ball control. I'm going to give you a really quick stat line of a player that reminds me a lot of TreVeyon Henderson. His first 2 games. His first game, he had 7 carries for 42 yards, 2 catches for 18 yards. Second game, he only had 7 carries for 17 yards. He did have 7 catches for 39. That player is Jahmyr Gibbs. We take those stats, moving it over to TreVeyon Henderson. People playing him as their RB2 are going to be disappointed, and I unfortunately think that's what they're in for. Again, I think TreVeyon Henderson is going to be great long term. I just think people are going to be in for a disappointment playing TreVeyon as their RB2 in week one.
Yeah, and that may be. Disco, what do you have?
I'm going to go on the opposite side there because I love TreVeyon Henderson this week, and I absolutely hate Ashton Genty this week. So I'm going to say Ashton Genty. I think he's going to be completely awful and catastrophic. If you look last year, what the Las Vegas Raiders did, they were last in yards per carry. They were dead last when it came to rushing yards. They were last in obviously first down rushing attempts and just rushing conclusions. They were actually 200 yards further down than the second worst team when it came to rushing yards. And even though they brought in a new offensive-minded head coach who runs first, even though they brought in a new quarterback, a couple new wide receivers, the one thing that they did not do and do very well is address that terrible offensive line that's still going to be absolutely catastrophic. You look at the other side, the Patriots brought in Milton Williams, defensive tackle / defensive end from the Philadelphia Eagles. Dude is an absolute monster. He was a wrecking ball in the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. They brought in the Raiders middle linebacker who was a run stuffer last year, Robert Spillane, and they just addressed everything defensively. I think Ashton Genty is going to struggle early early and often in week 1. So Ashton, and I wasn't going to say Ashton Genty, but he hurt me with that Travion Henderson.
Now, I do understand that philosophy. Rick, what do you got?
Oh, I'm going to hurt. I think I'm going to hurt Greg then. My sit or bust of the week is going to be Jared Goff. He tends to do much better at home than he does on the road, and inside versus outside. But I just think that this is going to be a really tough defense that he's going to be going up against. And then you add in, a great edge rusher in Mike Parsons. I think last year the Packers were tough, the third toughest defense against quarterbacks, giving up only 15 points per game. I just think this is going to be a tough one. Now, Parsons may or may not play. He's got a back injury that kept him out of a lot of the practice time with the Cowboys. May have been some other issues there too, but
Contract, maybe.
He is likely to play though, and I think this is going to be a good opportunity for him to come out and make some noise. So I would be sitting Jared Goff.
Yeah, see, I probably would not sit Goff, but I do understand that. I think it's going to be a big running game for the Lions this week. But I'm going again with an NFC North. And if you guys haven't seen it, the Sports Affiliation has a brand new segment called the Black and Blue division. And basically we have Andy Behrens from Yahoo is covering the Bears. You got Iggy Gilbert covering Packers, JC Money Design covering the Vikings, and yours truly covering the Lions. And I did predict a big game for my very own Jahmyr Gibbs in this game. So, but I'm going a little bit opposite in, I'm saying wide receiver 20 was DJ Moore, according to ADP. And I'm sitting more. The Vikings allowed more fantasy points to wide receivers than anybody last year. That's good news for Moore. But there's bad news. The Vikings also had the absolute most, fourth most sacks with 49. And I think they had 15 interceptions or something like that. Anyway, they had a lot of interceptions. And my problem with this whole Chicago Bears offense is Ben Johnson's offense is very strict in that your quarterback has to make the proper read in the proper time and get the ball out quick, and that's just not a Caleb Williams trait. So I cannot risk anybody from that Bears team until I see them perform. I mean, they pulled Caleb Williams off the practice field twice, once with the entire offense because they were screwing up so bad. So week 1, get more out of your lineup as far as I'm concerned. Gentlemen, I want to also let you know we're going to be tracking how we all did in this. And pros and Joes will be added up with all the different pros and all the different Joes and compete against our very own Rick and myself to see who has the best numbers at the end of the year. I want to thank Disco and Waz for appearing. Guys, is there anything you want to say to the crowd? You first, Disco.
We're done? That's it?
You can tell them where to find you, man.
Big Draft Energy on YouTube, Big Draft Energy on X, Big Draft Energy across the board. And anything you ever need, Greg, Rick, I'm here. I got you guys. And Waz, it was nice meeting you, buddy. But Travion Henderson, remember that name.
And what I'll have to say, Disco, I apologize. Maybe I listened to too much Bill Simmons. He's way too excited about Travion Henderson, and it was driving me nuts. So there might have been some subconscious choice there. It was not an insult to you. I hope you're right. You are the pro. I am just a Joe who uses websites like this one or footballguys.com to tell me what to do, and I'll keep working. And if any of you ever decide to do something really stupid, give me a call and I'll help you out.
Thanks, Waz. Thanks, Disco. Now we're moving on to the news segment, and this is Rick's Ballywick. Rick, what's happening in the world of football?
Oh my gosh. I talk about not being prepared. I didn't prepare any notes on.
Well, I know you've got a trade you wanted to talk about. You talked
help.
about it in Snap, Crackle, Pop. Just revisit that.
Yeah. Gee,
Micah Parsons. I'll start us off. Micah Parsons went from Dallas to Green Bay. Now, for me, I think that's a great move for Green Bay's pass rush, but I think it really hurts their run defense. Mike is seen as a below average run defender. And by the way, Rick, you can remove our two guests. They're done with this segment for now. Guys, thanks for tuning in. And I also think that Micah Parsons, although it helps the pass defense, it hurts the rush defense for Green Bay. I think what it's going to do is it's going to make Jacobs a better play this week, but not so much Tucker Kraft, because there's another guy on the other side of the ball that's back from injury, and I think Tucker Kraft's going to have to stay in and chip Aiden Hutchinson. Now, what's your thoughts on the impact of Micah leaving Dallas? How does that impact Dallas's team?
Well, and gee, I would think from a fantasy football point of view, that really just makes the Dallas offense players more attractive. So Dak, I think he's going to get a bump. He's going to have to pass the ball a lot. I'm not a big fan of their running backs, so I think that we're going to see CeeDee Lamb. We're going to see a lot of Pickens, and I think we're also going to see a lot of Ferguson. And so, Dak's going to, 5,000 yards? Is that a possibility this year? Could be.
It's not likely, but it is a possibility. I do have to ask you, you mentioned George Pickens. I absolutely love Pickens now because he goes from being a wide receiver one, where he's getting covered over the top as well as man coverage underneath. He's going to be the wide receiver two with CeeDee Lamb there. Do you see 8 or 9 targets in week 1 against that Philadelphia defense?
Yeah, it's funny because he was one of the players I was actually thinking about as a sleeper. He falls outside the top 24, so he would have qualified for that. Philadelphia's cornerbacks, though, are really tough. I mean, they've over the last 2 years they've added Quinion Mitchell. They have Adoree Jackson and Cooper DeJean. So they are a tough passing defense to have to go against. Yet I still think that they're also equally tough to run against. The Cowboys, running attack, I think is mediocre at best. Is that fair?
So absolutely fair.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see a lot of passing. And I think we're going to have to see it early because I think Philadelphia is going to be trying to score big and score early and score often. So I think that it's going to be a fun game to watch from a passing point of view. I just don't think that the Cowboys have a chance up against.
There was a little bit more news today breaking. Amari Cooper has informed the team that he plans to retire. Now that's got to throw a monkey wrench into a lot of people who picked him up late in drafts.
And I was one of those. I picked him up
hoping that he would do well. Tell us, what's the impact on his team now that he's gone?
Well, and I think a lot of the Raider fans were excited about the rookie. And so I think, and I'm not talking about Jack Besh, I'm talking about Dante, help me with his last name.
Thompson?
Johnson?
I don't know.
Anyway, I think he's going to, because that's the spot where Cooper would have been playing. I think you also have some grumbling from Jacoby Myers. So I haven't heard it if he is kind of pushed that aside. And so I think, a player I was really excited about going into the season, Jack Besh, as a slot receiver. He's going to get a lot of shot. They also have, I'm sorry, Trey.
Trey McBride.
No.
No,
So,
he actually, who's their tight end? He's pretty
oh,
solid.
a guy named
Guy named,
Bowers, Brock
guy named,
Bowers. Yeah, I think that he's
yeah,
real.
Bauer, yeah, something like that. Brock,
So I was
Brock.
kind of interested because on the earlier segment there was talk about Genti not having a big game and being like I think he was chosen as one of the busts of the week. I don't know.
Yeah, Disco chose him as the bust.
Yeah, I think he's going to be involved in the passing game as well. And so I think that, Cooper, there was some thought, including myself, I added him to a team that was really hurting for wide receivers.
And it's still really hurting for wide receivers.
Well, my team, I have a pretty good running attack, though, so I think I'll be able to cover that. But still, I think that the Raiders are going to be a fun team to watch, and I don't think the loss of Cooper is really going to impact that at all. I know that Tip Major is going to be joining us, and I know if anyone's going to talk about the Raiders, he's probably the best person to do it.
Yeah, but we got 9 minutes before we got Tip on. So was there another piece of news that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I think that, one of the games I'm actually excited about, and unfortunately, they lost one of their wide receivers to a quad injury, Jalen Coker. But Jacksonville versus Carolina. I mean, last year, who would have said that was going to be one of the fun games to watch? But I think that you have two new offensive-minded coaches. You have two young quarterbacks that are developing, and you've got good wide receivers, young and brand new, with both Tetero and McMillan, and you have, of course, Hunter. I know you weren't that thrilled about Hunter's game this week.
No, I like Hunter. I just want to see more because he's being pushed up the draft charts to basically a 5th or 6th round pick. And I think that's too early for a guy that you don't know if he's going to primarily be on offense or defense. There's no way he's playing both ways consistently. You just can't do that in the NFL. He's going to play. Now, I realize that the depth chart for the team says he's the backup cornerback and a starting wide receiver. But I don't trust early depth charts because these teams will put crap on him just to mislead the opposing teams. That's why I think Hunter's very talented. Travis Hunter had a great year as a junior last year. But who did he really play? I mean, look at his game logs from last year, and you'll see a couple games where he just disappeared. In the NFL, all the cornerbacks are pretty tough. I mean, compared to college anyway. You don't run open the way you do in college. I want to see him on the field, and I want to see him get 8 to 10 targets before I say he's worth a 5th or 6th round pick.
Sure, but he's going to be the wide receiver too after Brian Thomas Jr., of course.
You think?
Oh yeah, to start for sure. And I think that that's going to be a little bit easier for him from he's not going to be going against the cornerback one for most teams. And he was really the only weapon that Colorado had. So I think that he's going to make an impact. But I'm just excited about both teams. And as someone from the Houston Texans, it's tough to say that I'm looking forward to seeing, two of those teams playing. But, that's going to be, I think, one of the fun games.
I'm looking forward to that game. I'm also looking forward to the 2 games in the NFC North. I truly look, I love Tucker Kraft. I think he's a solid tight end. But if you look at him against the Lions last year, he struggled. And the signing of Parsons is important. But I think Detroit last year, when they played in December, had 8 defenders on IR. 8. They ended up the season with 14 defenders on IR. Now, 8 defenders on IR, including Aiden Hutchinson. What do you think is going to happen to Tucker Kraft's number of routes run if he's got to stay in and chip Aiden? And I think he's going to have to, or Hutchinson will get to Jordan Love 2-3 times. I really believe that. I think he's going to hit him 3 or 4 times anyway, but I think he may get 2 or 3 sacks when it's all said and done. So
one of the other games, I was actually curious what your opinion was, because the Chargers against the Chiefs. I mean, that's, I think, going to be a fun game to watch.
I'm starting all my Chargers.
And I think that you're probably going to, if you have Chiefs, I think you're going
Not
to
Chargers, Chiefs. I'm sorry. Mahomes, Xavier Worthy, and Isaiah Pacheco are all starting for me in one league.
And I think it's going to be fun because you had all the talk about the eye injury, but he's been cleared to play. He's not going to start. Hampton's going to start, which I'm not too surprised. Although Najee Harris is obviously a really good running back too. But I think that's going to be
Najee, and he's playing.
And he is playing, so that's going to be a fun game to watch, I think. And I think that I think that Justin Herbert's going to be kind of flying under the radar right now too, and so I think you'll see
people forget this kid set the NFL record for most touchdowns by a rookie quarterback. I mean, the kid can play. I love Justin Herbert. I do. And everybody thinks that just because Jim Harbaugh is the coach, they're going to run all the time. They will run. Don't get me wrong. Harbaugh does like to run, but he does what it takes to win. They get down 2 scores to Kansas City, you're going to see Herbert air it out. You really are.
And I think that, again, they have a great running attack, which I think is a nice balance. But I do think that, you're going to see McConkey out there. Trey Harris, I think, is going to get some opportunities. I think tight end is actually a pretty interesting position with them as well. I think that everyone was expecting them to draft one of the 2 big tight ends this year, but I think that they move the ball around pretty well, and so it's going to be a fun game to watch. Now, of course, the Chiefs play well enough to win. They don't really run the score up, and that's one of the reasons why Mahomes' numbers have kind of declined a bit the last couple of years. Is that they've relied on the defense. They haven't attacked the downfield as much. Of course, Tyreek Hill's no longer with the team, but I think this is going to be a fun game to watch. And again, 2 AFC West teams having at it. It's always going to be fun.
Give me your prediction on Xavier Worthy with Rashee Rice out of the picture for 6 weeks. What are you expecting from Worthy in week 1? Tell me 8 catches for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns, please.
Well, that's not going to be the number. So I think he's going to be somewhere between 80 and 100 yards. I think that, and you're right, with Rashee Rice out, now Worthy is the main target. But, they also have Hollywood Brown, and they, have this tight end named Travis. I think that he'll do okay too.
Travis is getting a little old. They got another guy named Noah behind him who's not too terrible.
Yeah. So, but of course, as was well reported, Travis Kelce, lost some weight. I think that he's going to go into the season a little healthier than he normally has the last couple of years. And I'm thinking that there's going to be a bump in Mahomes' numbers then as a result, because
I would love to see that. I got to ask you though, there was one more piece of news that I was surprised by. Apparently, Justin Jefferson's hammy is worse than we thought. Do you foresee him not playing or being limited against the Bears on Monday night?
Yeah, I still think he's going to play now. The question is whether he's limited, whether he's going to be, just running, out there to try to attract attention from the defense. But they don't have Addison either, though. So I think that, the passing attack is definitely going to be in trouble if Justin Jefferson isn't out there.
I don't know if it'll be in trouble, but it won't be as strong. I'll agree with that. And it looked like J.J. McCarthy was getting a good rapport with Jordan Addison. So when he comes back in week 4, that team may just take off. Anyway, I think it's time for a new segment. Do we have our host with the most waiting in the background?
Hey, there you guys are. What's up?
What's up, Tip?
I didn't get the Hawaiian shirt memo. I missed out on that.
Yeah, all you gotta do is watch me, buddy. I'm in them all the time. Janie got this for me at a Goodwill for $7. I love it.
Oh wow! No, yeah, look, it looks good on you, Greg. I'm not gonna even dare. That's not something I would wear.
She doesn't
What's
like
up,
the
Rick?
hat. She
Hey
wants
there,
me to get a
Tipster.
bigger brimmed hat.
Oh yeah, no, that's you guys, man.
There was some smack being talked about your Raiders. You want to go ahead and give us a quick update on how the team looks?
I'm not going to say anything. I'm tired of talking, Rick. To be honest, I'm not saying anything else. I'm just going to let the play show what the play is going to show. That is it.
I want to know what
fine.
you're here for, Tip.
I'm
Why are
here-
you gracing our screen.
I am here because we are here to talk about AI. And the question is, should you use AI for fantasy football? Okay, I mean, like that is a legit question nowadays. And can it actually win you games? Can it win you a championship? So last year, Greg and myself, we did this segment called To AI or Not to AI. And when we did this segment, we did one thing wrong, fellas. You want to know what that one thing we didn't do right was?
I would guess we didn't track it.
We did not track it, Greg. You're right. We didn't track the results. But this year is different, guys. This year, we are going to track the results. And myself, I'm going to be going against Sir Whittington. He's agreed to come back this year with his snarky jokes and comments. He's agreed to come back. But there's a new guy on the block, and his name is Krog. And I guess if you could probably figure it out, but his name is Krog. We're just going to leave it at that. And myself. And we are going against each other each week to see who will be on the top. Will it be AI or will it be myself, a human that has a heart, that has a brain?
Or will it be our host? Because we are also going to go against them and make our own predictions.
100%. So, Greg, if you guys don't mind, let me go through some of the rules real quick with everybody.
Please.
What we're going to be doing is we're going to be picking one wide receiver, one running back who rank outside the top 24 to see who's going to finish inside the top 24. And then also we're going to look at a tight end that's outside of the top 12 to see who's going to finish inside the top 12. So these are going to be specifically for flex positions because those are usually the big time questions that you have. Typically, if you have a solid team, you're going to have multiple flex options to pick any given Sunday, especially week 1. So that's where we come in because we're going to go ahead and rate each other's responses. Each one of us are going to rank them 1, 2, and 3 on that player. And whoever has the most points, Greg, right? The most points?
Yeah, because the way we're going to grade them is that for every position you're off in the ranking, you get 1 point. So like if you say somebody's going to finish first and they finish third, that's 2 points. If you say they're going to finish third and they finish first, again, 2 points. If you say they're going to finish second and they finish second, 0 points. So a perfect score is 0 points. The worst score you can get is 4 points each week.
And you know what else also, guys, is I'm doing this as an article series too. So it's going to be a video series every week on the Sports Affiliation Thursday Checkdown show. And I'm also doing an article on it as well. So look out for that too. And basically it's going to have what the AI said, what I say, and then what the other AI says. So we're going to sandwich myself in between there. So that way you can get the AI's responses. Then you can hear what I have to say about both AI responses because I'm going to know both of them. And then at the end, we'll have the other AI alongside with the conclusion. So, yeah, it's going to be something that's really fun, intuitive. It's something that's relevant now because a lot of people are talking AI, right, guys?
Right. So who are the players for this week?
I'm happy you asked that, Greg, because we had 3 players who are actually fantasy football relevant right now and who could be a flex option for you. Those 3 players are Teteroa McMillan of the Carolina Panthers wide receiver. Then we have Kyle Pitts, tight end for the Atlanta Falcons, Don't let me start doing the Kyle Pitts dance. Don't let me start doing the Kyle Pitts dance. I'm telling you, I was talking about it last night. I'll talk about it again. But the last person is Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I've said that name like 20 times before the show, so I'm happy I got it through.
Bill,
because I wasn't going to say Bill. I'm not
You're
calling him Bill, Greg. I'm not calling him Bill. I'm calling him by his government. And he's the third player in this week. So without further ado, let's give you the responses that these three, myself included, said. So first we're going to start with Sir Whittington. And Sir Whittington, Krog, and myself all agree that Teteroa McMillan would be the number one out of this group this week. And I'm going to tell you what Sir Whittington said. He's a top X receiver in this year's class. Carolina doesn't have a wide receiver one, guys. He is brought into there to become the wide receiver one. They shipped out Adam Thielen. They did bring in Hunter Renfrow, which I think is kind of sneaky, but that's it. So yeah. with all three of us, hands down, that's who we're picking. What about you guys?
Too.
And
Coker's
wait a minute. Go through the other guys. We want the rankings for each guy.
So for Sir Whittington, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt was his number 2. He said he's really impressed with his athleticism. He says that he's going to be effective in this scheme that they're going to run in DC. So that's something that you have to definitely pay attention to. And then his third rank was Kyle Pitts. And he says that Kyle Pitts is hard to trust with the volume he will get. But I got something for you, Sir Whittington. I'm going to tell you about the volume that Kyle Pitts could get this week. And now let me talk about, since we talked about Sir Whittington, I'm going to talk a little bit about Krog and what Krog had to say. Krog, again, rated Teteroa McMillan number 1. He said that he is an absolute freak. He said he could see him easily get 8 to 5 targets, would land him as a wide receiver 1 in that group. Not maybe a fantasy, but on that group for sure. And he laid it Kyle Pitts number 2. He said, again, he's an athletic freak. He's a mismatch all over the field. Mismatch for linebackers because he's too fast. Mismatch for DBs because he's too big. So that in and of itself, he had Kyle Pitts number 2. And Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, he said he is unproven. That is the biggest con that he had against him. The biggest reason that he is not high on Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is because he's unproven. And I got to agree with Krog, because here's my 3. My 3 was Teteroa McMillan. And one thing neither one of them said that I'm going to say, they're playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, guys. The Jacksonville Jaguars last year gave up the second most fantasy football points to wide receiver. I know they did get a couple upgrades this offseason in the secondary, but it's going to take time for those guys to gel, the cohesiveness. So that's why you're going to have Teteroa McMillan. If you looked at some of the plays that Teteroa made this offseason or this preseason with Bryce Young, if you look at that 26-yard catch that he made, it was beautiful. I pinged it. I'm going to put it in the article so you can see it, but that was a beautiful play as well. And then for me, number 2 was Kyle Pitts, and it's 2 reasons. Darnell Mooney is banged up, guys. He's got a bad shoulder injury. So coach has been non-committal. They don't know if he's going to play this week. And who do they play this week? They play division rival Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to need to score points. So if they're going to need to score points, Kyle Pitts, if Darnell Mooney is not out, he's going to be next in line to get some targets. You know Drake London's going to get his. You know Bijan's going to get his. Everybody's been talking about Kyle Pitts getting his, and will he get it in week 1? I think so. My last one, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. And the real reason is I feel like, fellas, the playing time situation with him, they kept all 4 running backs on the team. They have him. Some have him, the depth chart at number 2. Some have him, the official depth chart on the website. Washington Commanders has him at number 4. I know that's not a big thing. Greg and I talked about it. That sometimes could be smoke signals, but it's still something that we got to look at in fantasy. And as week 1, I think you sit and be patient with Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt.
Okay. Well, Rick, how do you rank these 3?
I actually like, and it's going to be, this will bite me because every year I've drafted Pitts too highly and then boom, I get bit. But I actually like, of course, Teteroa McMillan as the number 1. I think he's just the type of wide receiver that is going to really fit in with the type of quarterback that Carolina has. And of course, I think Coker being out is going to just funnel more to him. And so he was going to be my sleeper wide receiver if we were going to do all three positions. And then I'm going to go with Pitts because I agree. I think that Atlanta's going to move the ball in the air. I think they've got Bijan too, but Bijan. I think that the passing game, and I think that Pitts is going to be probably their prime or secondary target after, of course, Drake London. So and then I'm not sure about Bill because I think that it's going to be more of a committee that most people are hoping for. Yeah. And so I'm thinking he's going to be the third of the three.
Okay. Well, in 2024, the Giants actually allowed 316 points, or about 18.6 points per game to running backs. All right. That's, to me, Bill is going to start the year sharing touches. I don't care whether he's second or fourth on the depth chart. He's going to play. I have no doubt about that at all. And I think, last year, Eckler scored both 15 and 21 points in 2 games against the Giants. So Eckler will be the focus. I do believe that. But I don't think it's unreasonable to expect Bill to get maybe 14 to 17 points in week 1 because he'll be used in the passing game as well as the running game. And he is a good one-cut slashing type runner, which is what that offense is designed for. That's why they got rid of Brian Robinson Jr. because he danced too much. They didn't like that. Yeah. Now, I know T-Mac doesn't like the term T-Mac. Too bad. You got to earn Tedorosa for me. Right now, you're a rookie. You got to earn it. You're facing a Jaguars team that gave up 22.3 points per game to wide receiver. That's the third most in the league. All right. Bryce Young showed tremendous growth at the end of the year. And as expected, the primary receiver, it would not surprise me to see, 5 for 61 stat line. I think that's very reasonable in this game. Might get more. But I think 5 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown is pretty reasonable. Pitts, ultra-talented tight end. He's always been ultra-talented. He's never lived up to expectations. But he had great success against the Buccaneers last year. He scored 15.8 and 25.1 in the 2 games against Tampa Bay. So he can play well against Tampa Bay. Now, neither game was with Michael Penix under center. That's the only thing that I'm worried about. And in Penix's 3 starts, Pitts just caught 7 balls for 66 yards and 1 touchdown. So they haven't shown the chemistry they need for me to put him at the top of the list. I'm going to go week 1 with McMillan, Krosky, Merritt, and Pitts in that order. I thank you. We will be tracking this, and we will see Tip every week at this time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Tip, tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. Of course, you can find me here at the Sports Affiliation every Thursday, like Greg just said, at the Thursday Checkdown, the AI segment. And then also Sunday nights, I'll be on with the Sports Affiliation as well, called Fantasy Nuggets. Check that out. It's going to start at 6:15 p.m. That's Central, so Eastern, 7:15 p.m. And it's going to be a 30 or 15-minute show just talking about Fantasy Nuggets from that day. And then also you can find me at Football Guys and Roto Baller as well. Just started working with them.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tip. Rick, please remove Tip so that we can move on with our show. Bye, Tip. All right. So, guys, I have been blessed to be included in a couple big contests this year. Football Guys asked me to do one of their big championship bowls. So we'll be reporting on how I do in that throughout the year. We'll do that probably right here in this segment just before we get to mailbag. Bull Rush, the fine people over at Bull Rush have given me an entry into their $100,000 contest. Now, in this, Bull Rush is a sports gambling site. I don't gamble, never have. But I have a free entry into a $100,000 contest where I could win up to $50,000. All right. How do I win money? I stay in the top 80% of all members through week 12. If I last till week 12, I'm in the money for sure. Okay. Every week we get 100,000 fictional dollars to wager. I just have to finish in the top 80% each week, and then it resets to 100,000 again, so that you have a great week. It doesn't put you way out in front. You have a terrible week, as long as you're in that top 80%, you're still in. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then I was also asked by the fantasy nerds, Joe, the chief nerd, actually contacted me to get into their pick'em. And then the TSA asked me to get into their pick'em. So we'll be kind of reporting on all those as we go. Feel free to visit Bull Rush. I like those folks. They're good people. And I really love what they're doing. If I win money, they are donating it to Disco, our first week pro. He has a charity for hospice care for terminally ill cancer patients that he set up. He did a 24-hour draft-a-thon with a pot-a-thon right alongside it, and we raised $5,000 for those folks. And hopefully I can win some money and get them some more money. And also that donation will be made in the name of the sports affiliation, so that JC and Iggy will get a tax deduction out of this. I'm more than happy to participate, but I don't want the money and I don't want the tax headaches. So I really appreciate Trent doing this for me. It was very kind of him. So we will be reporting on that. Now, we do have a mailbag segment. Now, the mailbag segment is where you, the viewer, can ask us questions. And if there's questions in the chat, we can always pull them up. But I've gone through and grabbed some from a local fantasy football group on Facebook. And if you want to email us a question, you have a better chance to get it on the air. TC_booking@yahoo.com. That's TC for Thursday Checkdown, _booking at yahoo.com. And we will try to get your question on the air, but Rick and I will answer it even if we don't get it on the air. I'll provide it to him. So that's the way to do it. Our first question is from Joe Gromick. He says, Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson are available in my league, are either worthy of picking up. I'm leaning Judkins, but I also have a lot of running backs on my roster already, and I'm not sure he's worth it. Rick, you have any opinions on this?
Yeah, the worth it part is the thing that makes it a little bit tougher to, because are you talking about, is he worth fab? Is he worth number one?
Well, let's assume there's no fab involved.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was really big on Judkins going into the season. Physically, I think he just makes more sense. I think Sampson's fast, but he's on the small side. I think the two of them are going to be an interesting combination, though. Depending on who the other running backs are.
Could you see a Jahmyr Gibbs D-money type situation?
Exactly. I was thinking of them, the thunder and lightning approach to running backs. And I think that's what most of the teams are going towards.
But I think if they do that, Judkins eventually will get the lion's share of the carries.
Oh, eventually, sure. But I think, I like Judkins. So if you were thinking of the two, who would I take? I would still take Judkins.
I would actually look at the backup running back in Philadelphia first.
Oh, Will Shipley?
Will Shipley, yes, because I've said it before. Curse of 370 is a real thing. I fully expect Saquon Barkley to either suffer a great degradation in efficiency, or, and this in my mind is more likely, he will be injured at some point, in which case Shipley will become the starter on a very good offense with a very good offensive line. So before I take those two who are on a bad offense, especially if Flacco goes down, they've got no quarterback. And I think the running game stops as soon as Flacco goes down. I don't care how good you are if you've got no pass threat. And I don't think Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders is a viable quarterback their rookie year. So I would probably look for Will Shipley first, personally.
Yeah, and of course, the Eagles, the only other running back they have is AJ Dillon, who wasn't successful in Green Bay despite all the opportunities he had there. They don't have Gainwell anymore, so Shipley is definitely a running back to look at late for drafts. You also have, I think, a lot of people are talking about Bashal Tutin as a late round grab.
Yep.
A little worried because again, you've got ETN.
I like ETN. I think ETN has a bounce back this year. I really do.
And a lot of people were talking about Tank Bigsby too, and thinking that he was going to make a lot of noise this year. So I just think that that's like an unsettled running back room. Someone early on the show brought up our Joe brought up Woody Marks. I like him a lot.
I love Woody. I love Ollie Gordon.
And Ollie Gordon being the last one, yeah.
Yeah, I love Ollie Gordon. There's a lot of good young rookie running backs this year. It's a very strong class. Hey, listen, here's the next one. Octavio Santiago, Darnell Mooney versus Tampa Bay, or Jaden Higgins at the Rams.
Well, we don't know if Mooney's playing or not, do we? I think he still has a shoulder.
Well, we're going to assume he is playing, because if he's not playing, you should get the word before the game and you can get him out of your lineup.
Then Mooney. I mean, if he plays, he's definitely in a better spot than Higgins. I think Higgins is going to be a great wide receiver, but he's still going to have to develop. A lot of the people in the draft were comparing him to Nico Collins, saying he's a Nico Collins light or Nico Collins the second. He's definitely in a good spot, but I just think that at least the start of the season, Mooney is a wide receiver too.
All right. Now, you were monitoring the chat room. Were there any questions in there? I've still got some more, but
no, not yet. So I have been monitoring. There's interesting comment about. I'll pop this one up. This one cracks me up. Dylan was quite to be the first of a tush pusher, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So I did see something pop up on my screen as we were talking on the last question. Apparently, Christian McCaffrey has been added to a limited practice report for the 49ers. Something to keep in mind. That doesn't mean he won't play. That doesn't mean he won't play, but he appears on the injury report an awful lot. So it's just something to keep in mind. From Josiah Sariana, flex starter, Isaiah Pacheco at the Chargers, or Cooper Kupp versus San Francisco. Now, I want to do this one first, okay? Cooper Kupp was actually Disco's sleeper this week. So he's expecting him to score at least top 24 wide receiver, which as a flex starter, outstanding. You're talking 15 points minimum. So he likes Cooper Kupp. For me, I think Isaiah Pacheco should be a starter anyway. I think he's a normal starter. He's not a flex. He should be one of your top two running backs unless you're just loaded at running back. I would go Pacheco over Kupp. How about you, Rick?
I would as well. Pacheco's healthy, and I think that he's going to get a great opportunity. There's another team where, a little bit unsettled is the backups. I like Brashard Smith a lot, especially for, a passing running back. But Pacheco, I think, is definitely going to be the man in Kansas City. And, I think he's going to well outscore, Cooper Kupp this week at least.
Okay. Well, from Dylan Christoph, we're needing some open opinions. You have flex open, Alvin Kamara versus Arizona, or George Pickens at Philadelphia. Now, frankly, I'll get into this a little bit deeper. I want you to go first, Rick, but I think they both should be starters.
I'm sorry, could you repeat them again?
Yeah, Alvin Kamara versus Arizona, or George Pickens at Philadelphia.
Wow. So we talked a little bit about Pickens and the Eagles, the defensive backs. I like Kamara. I think he's, really the New Orleans offense. So I think he's going to be involved in the passing game. He's going to be involved in the running game. I would be starting Kamara over Pickens.
Do you think Spencer Rattler hurts that New Orleans offense at all?
Yeah, I mean, obviously their quarterback situation is horrible. It was horrible last year. It's even more horrible.
You think Rattler can do worse than David Carr did?
There was 2 or 3 years ago, Carr was actually a pretty efficient quarterback.
He was 2 or 3 years ago, but I'm talking about last year.
Yeah, I actually like Rattler better than I like Schuff.
Yeah.
That's still saying that I like this a little bit better. They're both not NFL quarterbacks. So,
Well, how good was Arizona's defense last year?
Arizona's defense is like, if you're streaming defenses, they're the one to go for this year, or at least for this week. In fact, I think for the first 3 or 4 weeks, they're going to be a pretty good streaming defense option.
Because of their matchup or because of their talent?
Matchup, they've got some good pieces, like Mac Wilson's a good linebacker. Buda Baker's a really good safety. I think they've strengthened the rush a little bit. But yeah, that's the matchup is why.
Okay.
I'm
So
not
I
seeing
just
much
saw
law.
it flash up again. McCaffrey is now questionable on the injury report. But before you get all jittery, questionable does not mean 50-50. Actually, questionable is about 70-30. 70% of questionable players actually play. So that's something to keep in mind. I wouldn't lose sleep over Christian McCaffrey, and I'm not taking him out of my starting lineup unless he downgrades to doubtful. To be perfectly frank, I want him in my lineup. I would actually go with Pickens in a point per reception league. I'm not sure what to expect from the New Orleans offense. I'm just not. But I am sure what to expect from Dallas. They're going to throw the ball 45 or 50 times. And I think Pickens could get 12 targets, 8 or 9 catches, 100 yards. I'm not sure that we're going to see that kind of production out of Alvin Kamara. So I would go with Pickens this week. Do you really disagree with that? You really like Kamara over him?
Well, I like Pickens too, and for the very reason you mentioned. But I do think Kamara is going to be the entirety of the New Orleans offense.
And he is a good receiving back too.
I'm sorry?
He is a good receiving back too.
Oh, yeah. And I think that they're going to rely on getting the ball out to him, most of the game. And so, people are looking at Chris Olave, and, I worry about his injuries, concussions. I noticed he grew his hair out to provide a little bit more padding under the helmet. So I don't know how much that's going to help, but
well, they can put extra padding in the helmet. And these helmets, I believe, nowadays are air-filled, so they can adjust the pressure of the air inside the padding in the helmets.
I actually almost wonder when they're going to actually switch to the Guardian type helmets, even for the games. I know people dislike the looks of them.
They're just ugly.
But you have players like Olave and Tua, and you have so many players that
one more concussion,
major investment in a star, and
that's
then
right.
they have them gone.
I agree with you. If I was Tua, I would wear one every game. You couldn't get me out of them unless they forced me out of them. Okay, the last question we have from the audience is from Brandon Chance. Should I start Egbuka at Atlanta over Jerry Jeudy versus Cincinnati in week 1?
Love Egbuka. So I would. I know Jeudy had a good year with Cleveland last year, and I think he has a decent quarterback throwing to him. But I just love Emeka Egbuka, the most NFL-ready wide receiver that came into the league. And, he's in a great situation now. Chris is out for maybe half the season. I think Mike Evans is going to attract, the cornerback one. I think Luka is going to have just an awesome year. I'm all in.
I got to go with Judy as long as Joe Flacco is starting. I think he's got the better. Well, I won't say the better quarterback. After last year, Baker did really well. Baker Mayfield was very good. But I still see Egbuka as the wide receiver 2 behind Mike Evans in Tampa Bay. And I see Jerry Jeudy as the wide receiver 1. So I just think target-wise, as long as Flacco is healthy, Cincinnati's defense sucks. Okay, let's just be clear. They're very bad. Atlanta's defense is not as bad. So I'm gonna differ from my friend Rick here and say go with Jeudy in week 1 because you still have Flacco healthy.
Yeah, and where I also a little bit differ. I think Cincinnati has made a few steps to improve the defense. Of course, they get Trey Hendrickson back. They also drafted the big kid from Texas A&M. I'm actually.
You think they're going to be an improved defense, is what
they'll be an improved defense for sure.
Okay, but do you think they'll be as good as Atlanta?
No.
Okay. So to me, then Atlanta has Jeudy has the better matchup, and he's the wide receiver 1 versus the wide receiver 2.
Yeah, another wide receiver I do happen to like in Cleveland. I like Cedric Tillman, and he's usually available really late.
I do like Tillman too, as well. You're right, as long as Flacco's on the field.
Yeah, because after that, then you've got the 2 rookies and. Or the guy with the small hands. So I am not. But Flacco's a pro. I like him.
Well, that's our show for this week. Remember, next week we're actually going to grade our predictions so you can see how we all did. Join us next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on this same channel, and be sure to check out all of the sports affiliations, various podcasts. Rick, do you have another podcast you do?
Yeah, I do this thing called Snap, Crackle, and Pop with the Hall of Famer, but and Dennis Michelson. A fun show to be able to get a quick hit of really useful information on Tuesday nights, then back here on Thursdays. But there are some great shows on the TSA, and also folks that like tonight's show. Go ahead and this sounds so podcasty, but hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribing. It really does help us out.
Yeah, let me reemphasize that, please. We're pushing real hard to get 1,000 subscribers, and I think we're at like 750 or somewhere in there. Please like and subscribe, but also tell your league mates to subscribe because we're going to be covering things to help everybody. And we want your feedback. If there's something we're doing that you don't like, tell us. If there's something we're doing that you do like, tell us that too, because we can reemphasize it. We would love to get feedback from everybody.
You bet.
Take us home.